Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the final presentation of the Community Partnerships in Action stream for this year's National Landcare Conference 2021. It's a pleasure to have you all here. Please remember during the talk to ask any questions that you may have via Pigeonhole. For this last presentation, we are joined by Sue Brisch, who will be talking about the Roving Restorers project. Thank you so much for joining us, Sue.
Thanks, Alexi. Yep, it's a little bit, I can hear an echo, so that's a little bit disconcerting to me. I'm Sue Brischke and I'm the project officer for Hinterland Bush Links. And first of all, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land that we're meeting on today, and they are far and wide across this great nation of ours. So I'm on Jinnabara country, and I pay respect to the elders, past and present, and the ones who are coming along in the future. And I thank them for their guidance in helping us look after the lands that we all live on. The Roving Restorers program is Roving Restorers, Hinterland Bush Links was established in 2011. It's a connectivity project that began when our founder and coordinator, Susie Duncan, was doing some survey work at a sanctuary on the Blackall Range. And the animals that they found there, they discovered were also on the Conondale Ranges. But there was a great fragmented landscape in between. So Susie realised that to help these animals survive into the future, we needed to connect up this landscape. We went a little bit further than that, but mainly we work on that area. We've got a picture of our Roving Restorers here, a group. So Roving Restorers is our volunteer workforce. It's our most valuable asset, and we meet twice a month to assist landholders, and we work on private and public land. So we help with weed management and planting, and our volunteers just love being out in the bush. Some of them are landholders themselves. Some of them live in suburbia. We have a couple who come from the coast up to the range because they just love the atmosphere. They feel valued, they're out in nature, and they're doing something that's worthwhile, and they're making connections themselves. So we're not just connecting up the landscape, we're connecting up people as well. Jill on the right there is one of our favourite landholders. Jill's been working on her property for about 40 years, I think, and she's getting a little bit older now, so she needs some helping hands, and we're always very happy to go to her property to help her. I mentioned that we are connecting up landscapes between the Conondale and Blackall Ranges, but we think big. So we actually go all the way north to Gympie. We go west out near Yarraman and Nanango in the Brisbane Valley, and south down to Caboolture. But our main work is on the Blackall Range, partly because of our resources, and it's close to home, and there's plenty to do there. We weed and we plant, but mostly we weed. Last financial year, we pulled out about 10 hectares of land that we weeded and planted about 1,500 tube stock. The weeds that we tackle mostly are lantana, broadleaf paspalum, morning glory, privet, polka dot plant, tradescantia, lots of the usual ones. And some landowners have a few and some landowners have many. It's a great way for our volunteers to learn about weed ID and the best way to tackle these weeds. And we sometimes come across some unusual weeds. Recently, we came across a horned African melon, and there was a vine that was covering this tree, just laden with these fruit that we'd never seen before. So when we go out for roving restorers, we have a consultation first with the landowner and see what their priorities are. What would they like us to do? On many of our properties, there's a covenant, so we also consult with the Sunshine Coast Council Conservation Partnerships officers and see what the priorities are. Mostly they're the same as the landholders. And we also have a little bit of a consultation with other experts that might be around as well, especially if we've come across some of those unusual weeds. Each time we go out to a landholder's property, we ask them to give us a little introduction to their land, and they tell us a little bit about the projects that they've been working on. We always have a great time, and the landowners are always very appreciative of the work that we're doing. They get a boost from having, 6, 8, 12, sometimes over 20 people come to help them. Our volunteers get a boost from being out, and they getting all the mental health and physical health benefits of being in nature. Whoops. Now I've got lost on my slideshow. Here we go. So, yep, safety is our game. And because of COVID, we had a little bit of a hiatus last year, and we had to have a little bit of a halt. So now we have our COVID safety plan, and we're pretty good at sticking with that. At the moment in southeast Queensland, we're in lockdown, so Roving Restorers is on hold once again, but we're very hopeful that we'll be able to get back into it next week. We have received grants from the Sunshine Coast Council to purchase tools, and we always try and purchase good quality tools so that people are less likely to hurt themselves. And our volunteers really appreciate having the tools there to help them, and they don't have to provide everything themselves. We've got some great little tools called tree poppers, which give good leverage when you're pulling out a lantana or small privet or something like that. So it helps keeps our volunteers safe as well. You might have noticed in our photos that many of our volunteers are not youngsters anymore, and we take our first aid very seriously. We have trained first aid officer at every event, and we also got a grant to get a defibrillator, which we hope we never ever have to use. So far, we've been very fortunate, and we've had the only accidents have needed a band-aid. So we really try and be careful. We always do a site inspection before we go out, and we let our volunteers know when we advertise the event what the lay of the land is. Is it steep? Is it flat? Is it rocky? Is it likely to be slippery? So they can make an informed choice about whether this is a really good activity for them. We really value our volunteers, and we really look after them. We look after their safety, and we try and make sure that every event is a pleasant experience for them. On to morning tea. Yeah, morning tea. Morning tea is a must. So each time we go out, we provide some morning tea, although in the COVID safe times, people have been asked to bring their own. Often the landholders will provide a cake or something yummy to eat, but this is a great time for people to sit down after their couple of hours of weeding and chat and connect and share stories. And often the talk is about environmental concerns or what's happening on people's land. It's a great time to make social connections. The back to morning tea, the volunteers let us know if the morning tea is slipping a little bit too and not quite up to scratch. So we work together, we learn together, and we play together. So working is often those weeding and planting sessions. And sometimes it's hard work. There's no denying it. We've been out on, planting in showery weather where we're slipping and sliding. And oftentimes those are well advertised that this is not a good site if you've not a little mountain goat, and people choose the activities that are good for them. So sometimes people might be the ones that are putting together the tree guards or passing out the stakes or something like that. We learn together. So each year, 2 or 3 times a year, we try to have an ecological walk, which is not a weeding day, but we go off on a walk together and learn about some plant idea, go into a different environment that we're not used to being in. So in this photo, we're at Mount Emu Conservation Area looking at the Wallam environment, which is quite different to the eucalypt and rainforest environments that we're often in. We also go on what we call walk talking country walks with wonderful Auntie Beverly Hand, who's a Cubby elder, and she takes us on wonderful walks in the bush and talks to us about the way the Indigenous people used our land, the type of ways they would have moved through the country, and some of the rituals and just the daily life, where the men would be, where the women would be, what the children would be doing. And those talks and walks are always booked out well in advance. So we really value those. And for some of our people, I think it's perhaps the first time they've really had an Indigenous person share that knowledge with them. And playing together. We have a great Christmas party. Two of our members, Kim and Paul, offer to host our party for us, and not only Roving Restorers, but many of our members come to share our achievements and just share some good times and celebrate our achievements and acknowledge the wonderful volunteers that we have. We also go to Bushcare. So many of our roving restorers support the Sunshine Coast Council's Bushcare program, and we have 3 Bushcare groups that we go to in our local area. We have an Avocado Lane, which is in Maleny, the Maleny Showgrounds Bushcare group, also in Maleny, and we go to the Little Yabba Bushcare group, which is down in the Mary Valley. And this is a great way to, once again, get together. We meet with people who may not be roving restorers or members of Hinterland Bush Links, and we work with the Sunshine Coast Council Bushcare officers. So once again, we're learning about weed ID, planting techniques, the ecology of the area that we're working in. And whereas with roving restorers, we go to maybe 20 different landholders in a year, sometimes we go back and repeat visits twice a year. And we do go back to landholders year after year. But with Bushcare, you're going to the same site once a month. So you can really see on that level the changes that are happening. And once again, people feel as though they're out in the environment, they're doing something valuable, they're connecting with nature and connecting with people. Our connections don't only stay with roving restorers. In this photo, and she'll be really cranky that if she found out that her photo was on the PowerPoint, but this is Gretchen. And Gretchen is in her 80s now. She is the best workshop attender that you could possibly hope to meet. But Gretchen's getting a little bit older and a little bit fragile. And there's a few members of our Roving Restorers teams that keep an eye on Gretchen outside of Roving Restorers. So they might pop in and call her if she's not feeling well, or if she's got, an appointment she has to get to, they help her out. So our Roving Restorers connection extends well beyond the bush. We also have a little group of friends who go off on outings together. It's been a great way of making friends with people that you might not otherwise get together with. In the photo, you can also see Fergus. Fergus is one of our Roving Restorers who lives down at the coast, and he just loves to come up to the Blackall Range whenever he can to get a little hit of the bush. Our Roving Restorers on the Blackall Range has been really successful. And last year we were, or was it the year before, but we were able to get some funding from the Noosa Council, and in partnership with Noosa Landcare, we've set up a Noosa chapter of Roving Restorers, and that's going really, really well. They operate the same way as we do, go out and help landholders and bushcare groups. And Tamara, who is the project officer looking after that group, has done a fantastic job. So we've just got funding for another year, and we hope that this will just keep on going and growing. Roving Restorers is very grateful for the support that's been provided by the Sunshine Coast Council. They give us a grant that pays part of our wages bills, and of course the Noosa Council and Noosa Landcare have funded that hub. So we're really, really grateful for that. I guess the key messages from this afternoon is that volunteers are a fantastic workforce. The benefits are beyond just looking after nature, but it's making connections with nature and connections with people. And we value and look after them as best we can. And the country is what benefits from all those connections. So thank you very much. And I'll hand back to you, Alexi.
Thank you so much for that, Sue. That was a great presentation, and it's lovely to see someone working so hard to disprove the notion that exuberance and youth are two things that have to go hand in hand. It's truly beautiful to see, and I think you encapsulated perfectly what's so valuable about this type of a project, that it brings people together, not just within the environmental space, but it has them engaging and helping each other in so many different areas and supporting one another. It's really encouraging to see. Now, we've had a couple of questions come through, and funnily enough, I think there's someone from your group endeavoring to answer them before you get the chance, but I'm still going to ask you them because I want you to have your say. And the first one that I will ask comes from Meg. And Meg asks, hey, Sue, do you have specific insurance for working on private land?
We get our insurance through Queensland Water and Land Carers, and it's just the usual volunteer insurance, and that seems to be what we need. Yep. So Queensland Water and Land Carers look after that for us.
Fantastic.
And now, work cover as well. The state work cover that everybody needs to have covers our workers.
Absolutely. Now, another question comes from Nick, and Nick asks, what is the organizational structure around the group? Do they have a committee or come under another Landcare group governance?
Thank you. That's a very good question. Hinterland Bush Links is an incorporated not-for-profit association. So we are managed by a management committee, and we have 2 part-time employees and then our volunteer workforce, the Roving Restorers. So, yep, that's how the organisational structure.
Excellent. Now we've got time for a couple more. So I will just ask this one that comes from Julie. Julie says, I think that tapping into the older age group is fantastic, as they are a great resource and they would benefit hugely from these activities. Do many younger people also get involved?
We do have some younger people who get involved when they can, but younger people are often restricted in the times that they're available because of work or children or other commitments. But we do have some who come when they can, yep, and they're keen. It's always great to have them come along.
Excellent. Now, final question for you before I let you go. And this one comes from Marianne. And Marianne says, as a farmer, this is wonderful. Do you have restorers in New South Wales, or are you only in Queensland?
We only have our two groups at the moment. That's the Blackall Range group that operates out of Maleny, and the Noosa group that operates out of Noosa Landcare. But I think it's a great model for other groups to follow. So it's not hard to set it up, really. And yeah, we'd be happy to help anybody, give them some advice.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Sue, for a fantastic presentation.
Thanks,
And
Alexi. And thank you, everyone, for listening.
And thanks to everyone, as Sue said, for listening. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you all on the Community Partnerships in Action stream over the course of these last 2 days. There have been such a wide array of fantastic talks on different topics. I, for one, have felt as though it was an amazing experience. I hope you do as well. Please make sure that you tune back in to the plenary for the Cultural Land Management panel in roughly 25 minutes. Otherwise, thank you so much for attending this year's National Landcare Conference. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I'm sure we'll see you around soon.